Amma ba'd. Love is an emotion. It's a feeling that overcomes us, that we all experience, whether with our mother, our father, siblings, spouses, co-workers, friends, spouses. And I wanted to talk today about this book that I had come across called The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Chapman, and how it relates to the life of the Prophet ﷺ, meaning how the Prophet ﷺ himself embodied these characteristics in his life. And the book is about 5 different ways in which we communicate love to one another. Words of affirmation. Number 2, acts of service. Number 3, quality time. Number 4, receiving gifts. And number 5, physical touch. Now, we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, as narrated by Amr bin As. The Prophet ﷺ deputed me to read to go to the army of That Salasa. And I came to him and said, Ayyun nasi uhibbu ilayk. And the Prophet said, who is the most beloved to you? What beloved person to you? And he said, Aisha, his wife, Aisha. And then I asked, فَقُلْتُ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ فَقَالَ أَبُوهَا. He said, well then, among the men, who do you, right? Because the guy is asking the question. Said, okay, so I understand you love your wife, but like, who do you, us, right? So give us an answer. He said, her father, Abu Bakr. And then he said, after Abu Bakr, and he said, Umar bin Khattab. And then his other men after that. So you learn from this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ was very open in his communication about his love for his wife. Right? He said, who do you love the most? He said his wife. He said his wife, right? His wife. And then who after that? The father of his wife. You see how the love is extending to the in-laws, right? We forget sometimes that we have to also extend our love to our in-laws. That's, times, it becomes difficult, generally speaking. But we have to understand that the sunnah is to love the spouse and to also love the ones who love our spouse from her family or his family. He also used to call Aisha Homero, right? Because she had these red cheeks. And so he gave her a nickname that was based on the name of love based upon a characteristic that she embodied, right? Another sunnah you can learn how Prophet would deal with his family members. Nowadays, if you ever catch someone, usually the brothers have more issues, I think, generally speaking, Allahu Alam. You can catch them, he's talking to somebody, it's his wife or something, and the wife is saying, I love you, miss you, baby, all this stuff. And then he's like, yeah, cool, up to their bye, right? Especially the guys are around him, he doesn't want to affirm that what's being said back, But he learned from the Sunnah, Prophet ﷺ, he was very open about it in front of his companions. Number 2, acts of service. When the way that in the chapter of this book is the hadith is called the man serving his family. So Al-Aswad ibn Yazid asked Aisha, what did the Prophet ﷺ used to do at home? And she said he used to work for his family, and Sami'a al-adana kharaja. When he heard the adhan, he would go out. Okay? And then another, Hisham bin Urwa said that his father said, I asked Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, what did the Prophet ﷺ do in his house? And she replied, he mended his sandals, okay, and worked as many men work in his house. Okay. Now, one thing I want to think critically about what's happening here. One is, who are they asking about Prophet ﷺ's character? They're asking his wife. Because the wife is the one who sees a side that we don't see. The community doesn't see the side that the wives see. Number 2, you see that she mentions that he used to mend his sandals and do work around the house like other men do around the house. Unfortunately, we have created a society and a culture that we assume that women are the only ones who work in the house. Especially if the man is working, we assume the women are the only one who can who have to do any kind of, or are expected to do work in the house. And think about like how many of us, if our sandals got messed up or our shoes, would mend our shoes or our sandals, right? I mean, practically speaking, how many of us would do that? We would go to the store, the Montclair Mall or something close by, and buy a pair of shoes or sandals, right? But that sounds important because that's the act of service that, okay, there's something in the house that I can also help out with and contribute to. So, you know, whenever some of us here are married, alhamdulillah, some of us aspire to be married, inshallah, you know, thinking about like, how can you be just in your house, in our households? Thinking about if the husband is cooking and maybe the wife can do the dishes. If the wife is doing XYZ, husband do that, so there's some balance in what's happening in the home, right? What it also does, it creates appreciation, okay? What I mean by that is, if you ever had to clean a toilet, for example, you appreciate when there's a clean toilet done for you. Do you see what I'm saying? If you have to make a whole entire meal, then you appreciate what efforts go into the meal. If you've worked a full 9 to 10 hours of work, you appreciate what it feels like to come home after a long day of work, right? And so I think that's a very key component in our relationships. And I think that, you know, we have to kind of revisit the culture that we have deemed. There's a principle in Islamic jurisprudence known as urf, you know, like customs of the land, of the people. So basically the definition of urf is what is deemed by the righteous and good character people to be good is something that's deemed as good, and vice versa as well. So if people of good character are saying this is a good thing to happen, then we take that into consideration to Islam. Quality time. So when Prophet ﷺ, sometimes he would pray, he would take his granddaughter, Umama, in his arms. And when he bowed, he would put her down. And then when he stood up again, he would pick her up. Right? And see, Prophet ﷺ, he would incorporate his family even into the salah, even to the prayer. And on a side note, Prophet ﷺ, this is narrated, I believe, by Ibn al-Qayyim, great scholar, in Zad al-Ma'ad. Prophet ﷺ, even when he was praying salah, if somebody walked in and said salam to him, he would raise his right hand. Wa alaykum salam, wa alaykum salam. So you see that keen insight about how you interact with people. The Prophet, and now Aisha, again, the wife of Prophet ﷺ, said that the Prophet ﷺ raced with me and I beat him, right? So you see that the Prophet ﷺ is making time for his family. Not just ibadah, not just worship, but recreational time for his family. And so what we can do, practically speaking, inshallah, when, you know, if you're married or planning to get married, inshallah, one day, is to like figure out like events you can do proactively, going on a picnic, going for ice cream, going, you know, doing the holocaust together, maybe watching some kind of a TV show together. Finding ways that your family can interact on a daily basis or a weekly, and also a weekly basis. Make time. And some people think that, oh, well, if I have to like schedule a date night, is that like making it more businessy than authentic? But then I ask, you know, what's the alternative? You don't schedule something, someone else schedules something that's not your family, and then you're trying to take it up anyway, right? Thinking about how you can proactively do that. Physical touch. Again, Aisha, again, it's the same person in almost all his hadith. The Prophet used to kiss her during the month of fasting, right? And so having that physical touch is also very important. Abu Hurairah reported that Al-Aqra bin Habis saw Allah's Messenger kissing Hassan, who was Prophet's grandson. And he said, I have 10 children. He says to the Prophet, I have 10 children, but I've never kissed any of them. Whereupon Allah said, he who does not show mercy, meaning towards his children, no mercy would be shown to him. إِنَّهُمْ لَا يَرْحَمْ لَا يُرْحَمْ. So showing that mercy and physical touch, there's other Nabi he used to like, we would talk to someone, advise them or give them like a talk, he would grab them by their shoulder, like this, you know. that physical touch can be a very, very important way to show some kind of affection. And receiving gifts, as narrated by Aisha radiallahu ta'ala. Allah's Messenger used to accept gifts and used to give something in return. Sometimes the smallest gift can make the biggest difference, like a card or a handwritten note. I remember when I was in college many years ago, 100 years ago, when I was in college, one time I got this, not just one time, this is real, I got a bad grade, right? And so I was really bummed about it. It was like, I think it was probably like a semester, it was like a test, it was like a semester grade. And I was really bummed about it. And so one of my I think at that time, my roommate or maybe it was my friend, he just went to the store, like the campus store, whatever it is, or campus dining hall, and got like an ice cream sandwich, Oreo ice cream sandwich. And he's like, here, you know? And I still remember that from long ago, and I'm talking about it in the Khutbah. I needed someone to just pick me up and make me feel a little bit better about what's happening in my life. So I want you to reflect on the first part of the Khutbah, and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم يا فوز المستغفرين استغفر الله. So, I don't want to go off on a tangent, but I'm going to go off on a tangent just for 5 seconds. There's there's an ayah in Quran, وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا. We created you in pairs, right? And this is something like, it's very beautiful. And I'm gonna qualify this and preface it with that I don't believe everything that was presented at this conference that I was at, but one of the theories was that these two rings came together, and then they came, and then the Big Bang theory happened, right? And so one of the chaplains who was there was like, that ayah in the Quran where Allah said we create everything in pairs, how those two pairs came together, and then that's how. And of course, like science is like plays catch up with Allah, and they mess up and they try to figure out what happened, and like Allah's like, well, I told you, like Allah told us 100 years ago in the Quran what happened, and He created heavens and the earth. But it's just a side that I was reflecting on. Okay, so in Surah Al-Rum, it's 30th surah, 21st ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ, from His signs, is that He created أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. And of His signs that He created for you from yourselves mates that you may find tranquility in them, love with them, and He placed between you affection and mercy. Indeed, in that are signs for people who give thought. In the tafsir of Jalalain, he writes that you would find peace by their side. Ibn Abbas mentions that you will find rest in them. Like if you think about, I'm from Texas, so we have hurricanes. Actually, that's not a lie. In Houston, we have hurricanes, in Dallas, we have tornadoes. Very safe place. So in Dallas, when tornadoes come, all you can really do is get into this covered area, and then you just stop. You can't do anything else. It's like you just have to tawakkul of Allah, Allah will take care of me, And so you're waiting there, but you find rest in that place, right? And so, a healthy marriage, subhanAllah, you find rest in that place. Ibn al-Qayyim, I mentioned earlier, this great scholar, he said compatibility between souls is one of the greatest causes of love. Every person is attracted towards that which the person is compatible with. And this compatibility is of two types. Original compatibility, which is ingrained in the essence, and that which comes later because of living together or having something in common. And so when we talk about finding a spouse, we have that connection in terms of hobbies and what you like, I don't like, and stuff. Also something that's just in there, it's in the soul. You can't really name it. And I remember reading this book, I think I just finished college. It's called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, right? And frankly, I don't necessarily believe in all the gender roles that were attributed in that book, but there was something that was really, that when I read it, I was like, this is boring now. But like later on, now that I have gray hair and stuff, I'm like, wow, that was deep. So one thing he mentions in the end of the book, and he goes off for like, I think, like a whole third of the book, is love letters. And he said, you know, to write down love letters to whoever it is. Because sometimes, you find, in my experiences, meeting with, couples and things, a lot of times in counseling them, couples will avoid conflicts and not say what they want to say. Because if they say this and say that, then more fights will escalate. So an alternative is to write down what you're feeling and to give that to the person. Because that way they can't fight back with the letter. The letter is a piece of paper, you know what I mean? But the message comes across. And so it's a beautiful method of expressing what you want to express. It's far better than messenger or text or snapping, what you verbal form of Snapchat. So sometimes, so I mentioned this khutbah because when many young people that I've spoken with who are interested in falling in love and getting married, and Valentine's Day is coming up, and I have like kind of issues with Valentine's Day because of the origins are kind of shady, and then like it's a consumerist kind of movement to like you buy things. But really, for the Muslim, Valentine's Day should at least be a weekly thing, if not a daily thing. With the people in Europe that you come across that way. And to think about sometimes the love languages that we have are not the same with the person that you're talking to or we're married to. Right? Somebody could say that I make one, I don't, but someone could say I make $1 million a year, and they bought their spouse like a Porsche and fancy house, and Snoop Dogg and Claremont and all this, right? And but the spouse is like, I just want to spend time with you, It's a different love language. The person thinks that buying a car is what will make her happy because it makes him happy, for example, if it's a guy. But in this situation, the wife may be like, well, I just want some quality time with my husband. So it's important to understand those dynamics, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to understand how to communicate our love to one another in the best ways. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to heal our hearts from any enmity we have towards anyone. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect the Muslims and relieve us of our anxieties, especially in these hard times. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us vice-generals and ambassadors of Allah to those who do not know about Him yet in the deen of Islam. اللهم اهدنا فيمن هديت وعافنا فيمن عافيت اللهم اعز الاسلام والمسلمين اللهم اعز الاسلام والمسلمين اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين الحمد لله رب العالمين.
الله أكبر الله أكبر ولا إله إلا الله أشهد أن